What's up everybody? In our last video we discussed some of the things that have been posted to YouTube or online guides that maybe aren't necessarily accurate and are leading people to have a much more difficult time completing content while leveling up in Eureka. I was asked to go into a little bit more detail explaining why those things are misconceptions and providing that information to the community. So I've put together this video to explain in a little bit more detail here what's going on with my assertions that these are misconceptions in the last video.
Because of its many quirks, Pagos feels more rewarding the more you get to know it.
In my opinion, Pagos does not feel more rewarding the more you get to know it. It just is what it is. Pagos is there for 4 reasons: to extend the leveling experience of Eureka, to farm crystals for making etheric stabilizers, to farm the expensive drops, and to generate salt from everyone that hasn't figured out yet that they should ignore everything outside of the first 3 reasons to be there.
Or in that Baldesion Arsenal, we'll talk about it, I promise.
Ah, Mr. Happy promised us a Baldesion Arsenal guide, but never delivered. Well, don't worry guys, you can count on me to not let you down. When have I ever promised content that didn't eventually show up? Eh?
There's one notorious monster set called Brothers, which is just 2 minotaurs that you'll have to fight at the same time. They cast an ability called Blood Brothers, which mutates the other minotaur. Do not silence this. Letting them mutate makes the fight give more EXP and light at the end. So do not silence Blood Brothers.
If you want to get the most crystal yield, or the vitilated ether yield for your crystals, then you're going to want to let them mutate. This means you'll get way more light for the kettle, and in turn be able to get way more crystals.
I think most people have realized this one pretty quickly, but due to old high view count guides, it keeps popping up. While adaptations and mutations significantly boost the experience granted from normal mobs killed in Eureka, the Brothers' Fate does not give more experience, light, or crystals if you let it mutate. So just kill it.
Now on top of that, there's elementals around the map that if you stand near them, they give you a damage buff and an EXP buff. The EXP portion of that buff is actually permanent, so you will always have that boost in EXP, which just speeds up the whole process.
The elemental's experience buff is not permanent. It is impossible to remove, but does expire after an hour or when leaving the instance. As a side note, going to get the experience point buff from a fairy is only worth it if the entire process takes you less than 6 minutes. It's only a 10% experience bonus, and it lasts for an hour, so that's saving you 6 minutes of time if you can find it immediately. If it takes you longer than that 6 minutes, you've now actually lost experience points by going out of your way to find it.
Now level 9. Sit at your home base if lazy and watch anime or YouTube. Have your map open for fates. Do all the fates, they give lots of EXP. Even if they're many levels above, do your fates.
Here's where I get to start agitating some of you. If you're sitting in base watching anime or YouTube, not participating in spawning fates, and not taking the time to just follow the players that are spawning the fates, then you deserve to miss out when things get killed before you get there. You're limiting others who are putting in the effort to spawn the fates by reducing their efficiency because you're slowing them down while leeching their work. If you want to leech, no one's going to stop you, but they also don't have to make it harder on themselves to enable you. The primary benefit to completing fates is the crystals, not the experience. When you're more than 1 level below the fate, you don't get that. So, you should really avoid going to fates that are more than a level above you, because the primary reason to be there is no longer a driver.
The next thing you should know is that you should be doing everything in Eureka as a group. This makes survivability way easier, and you can get credit for killing higher level bosses, which is very important for progression.
Grouping is only necessary to ensure gold ratings when completing fates. Unless your group is the same level as you, which is difficult to accomplish at this stage of the content's life cycle, leveling is typically more efficient to do in a solo party.
My best advice to you is to just get into a fate group and just follow the people who know what they're doing.
Parties will get together called prep parties, and those are parties that prepare the Notorious Monster fates. So you can join those, and that can also give you a pretty good amount of XP if you are around the same level as those monsters.
The primary reason to do fates is for crystals or drops, and not as a primary experience gathering strategy. Killing fates at your level gives less experience than staying at the level appropriate grinding spots. Prep parties typically give very little experience because of party member level differences, mob level differences, party size, the respawn rate, and non-party member interactions with the mobs.
You should be looking in shout chat for a party to find people to complete your challenge log.
Challenge logs should be viewed as supplemental experience and part of the leveling strategy, but not as the core of any leveling plan, or even a reason to create parties. If you were to only do challenge logs in Animos as your Eureka leveling strategy once you hit elemental level 20, it would take about 6 or 7 months to hit the elemental level cap. For comparison, any other leveling strategy, even including Fate Train ones that I don't recommend, can be completed in 6 or 7 days.
As for fates and challenge log, when fates pop in the lower area, definitely go and do them. The fate experience in Pagos has been buffed significantly. This is why I don't recommend skipping them.
And on top of that, Notorious Monsters, they're still great for leveling, way better than they were when you may have done Pagos initially.
Pagos fates on the bottom half of the map in particular are not very useful. Until level 28 or 30, the best thing you can do is to grind mobs 1 or 2 levels higher than yourself because the fates are inefficient. Once you're a bit higher, you can farm the higher level fates to more quickly earn crystals.
And you are now ready to join the NM train, or the Fate train, in Eureka. This ensures that even if you're under-leveled for the Fate, you'll still get tons of EXP from it and be able to level up quickly.
The only way to level up slower in Eureka than passively participating in Fate trains is to only complete your challenge log once a week in Animos and then not come back until the next week.
Make sure to respect pull times. It'll help everyone out in the entire zone.
Pull time delays actually heavily reduce the entire zone's efficiency. I'll go into the detailed math on this in a future video, but I'll quickly sum up the reasons why here. All Notorious Monsters in a zone can be popped within a 2-hour window, assuming the weather cooperates, just in time for the first one popped to be ready to respawn at the end of the 2 hours. This generates the maximum crystals possible over time for the instance. To accomplish this though, the zone must move very quickly. In Animos, for example, you must be able to travel to, pop, and kill each Notorious Monster in an average of 6 minutes each. Otherwise, you don't complete everything possible in the minimum time possible. Just 3 minutes of pull time delay for each fate changes that math to now only allow 3 minutes time to travel to each fate, pop it, and kill it before you start reducing the zone's efficiency. If you aren't actively popping fates but want to participate, keep your maps open, use return strategically, and utilize Aetherites effectively, communicating with the people who are popping the fates, and be present when an obvious insta-pull weather or nighttime Notorious Monster window opens. It's not other gamers' responsibility to baby you. Active and informed play eliminates the need for pull times. If you really value the money fates, be there. Prioritize it. If you're worried about experience, just keep grinding your chains. You're better off there anyways. If you're building weapons, collaborate with the other Fate farmers. You'll likely have a common goal.
Bunny Fate gives good early EXP.
Bunny Fates are not for leveling. Bunny Fates are for loot. They are literally never useful as a component of any genuine leveling strategy other than the level sync cheese where you actually want the fate to never be completed.
It's way better to ask for a res than it is to D-level and have to grind all that back.
The next piece of important information is that respawning drains your elemental level. So if you die, you have to use shout chat and wait for a res, or you will lose very, very valuable XP. You lose a lot. It's a lot worse than Boja.
Many times it's better to just accept the experience loss and immediately return to grinding instead of waiting for someone to reach you, raise you, and wait out the weakness. Dying costs 25% of the EXP your current level requires to level back up. which you can gain back faster than waiting during many level ranges. In most level ranges, you'll be back to where you left off after around 15 or 20 kills of mobs one level higher than you.
Or maybe even do the 56-player permadeath raid that was the Baldesion Arsenal.
The Baldesion Arsenal does not have any permadeath mechanics. People die during Baldesion Arsenal all the time and can be revived in 3 different ways: Spirit of the Remembered, Sacrifice, and Healer Limit Breaks. Only one mechanic in the final fight of the entire dungeon is guaranteed to remove people who fail it from the fight, which actually doesn't even kill you, and it's a fairly easy mechanic to resolve. Hundreds of people get their first clear every month, even several years after the content released. And the scary warning is openly mocked at this point. It's all fun these days.
You should not enter Eureka Pagos before you're finished your weapon, and you should probably be over level 20. The best thing to do would be to wait till you're level 22 or 23 so that you can actually begin to do the notorious monsters in the area.
Now, I know I just said you needed to be level 20 to enter Pagos, but I recommend you get a little more levels in Animos before going to Pagos. The enemies in Pagos are far more brutal than Animos, and they aggro a lot easier. So you'll be in a lot more danger if you come here just at level 20.
That's why a lot of people elect to stay in Animos until approaching level 25.
Once you've reached Elemental level 17 and you've finished the Eureka Animos questline, you should immediately go to Eureka Pagos. The low-level mobs in Pagos are not difficult to solo, and give nearly 3 times the experience points that the Animos equivalent mobs give. The most dangerous thing in Pagos is the shout chat, not the gameplay.
It goes to 9, and you're going to want to get it to 9 because you effectively get a bonus crystal, because if I were to turn this in right now, I would lose this little bit of crystal here, and that allows us to get to the crystal forge here. Alright.
As you can see here, you don't lose partial light bars when turning in your light before 9. The opposite is actually true. You lose partial light bars when you cap, because once you hit 9, anything over the cap gets deleted. Don't cap at 9, turn in at 7 or 8, and make sure that you're getting everything that you earned.
And using your challenge log here is definitely the best use of your time.
Challenge log's value for time saved actually peaks in Animos. As you progress through Eureka, challenge logs provide a smaller and smaller percentage of required experience for each level, and replace a smaller and smaller amount of kills required to grind out each level.
The reason you actually don't want to enter the blue portals and wait for the red ones is because if you take a blue portal, it'll actually make another red portal disappear somewhere on the map. If you're in a full BA run, everyone has to go through the red portals, otherwise people aren't going to be able to get in.
This isn't quite how portals actually work. There are always a total of 48 main portals, regardless of if one gets stabilized or not. For example, if 5 blue portals get stabilized, then 43 red ones appear. The blue portals are just not in the same spots as the associated red ones. Now, if 48 people have organized themselves to enter the content and 5 random players enter a red or blue portal, those 5 random players are preventing 5 of the pre-organized group members from entering. Now, this is nearly certain to instigate interpersonal drama, and may also hinder or even prevent completion of the dungeon if critical group members are prevented from entering, but isn't really against terms of service, so it's not really a nice thing to do, but it's also not something that you can really stop people from doing. What are some other examples of things that aren't true that people believe and perpetuate due to being incorrectly stated in guides? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe to the channel to stay notified as we roll out the most detailed and exhaustive Eureka and Baldesion Arsenal guide series ever created.